Okay, this will be a really quick tutorial on how to create a moving background in Flash. If I hit Control Enter on this Flash document, we've got a simple static ground along with the sky in the background, but in between is this moving graphic symbol. So I'll get out of this and I'll just go back to the start. So I've got my character or my movie clip with the shadow effect. I'll just quickly start a brand new layer, drag that to the very bottom or drag it to the background, call that ground. In this case I'm just going to add a simple oval tool, select the oval tool and select outside of the canvas and just create just a nice gradual curve. Now if I select that particular shape, I can head over to the fill color and change that fill to a radial gradients. And also, if I head over to the free transform tool and underneath that there's a gradient transform tool, and once again if I select that particular shape, it allows us to manipulate the gradient effect. If I turn these anchor points around and so forth and experiment with that, it almost looks like a nice little spotlight effect. So I'll zoom back in. So once I've got the ground, I can lock all those layers away, and that makes it a little bit easier to work with. And I'll start a brand new layer. In this case I'll call it City Center. Now in this case I'm just going to draw some very simple rectangle shapes, but before I do I'll just change the fill to black, and in this particular layer I'll just start off by drawing some very simple buildings and just add a bit more detail. Just change the color or fill to yellow and just draw over these. So these are just simple graphics to begin with, and that will do. And now before we can animate these, what we're going to do is just turn these three buildings or this graphic or this layer into a movie clip. So I'm just going to select everything, or you can alternatively you can press Control A, that selects everything in the layer. And I'm going to right click, convert to symbol. In this case we'll call it a movie clip and we'll call it City Animating and hit OK. And we'll head inside the movie clip, edit in place, and that way it gives us a brand new timeline to work with. So we'll quickly animate these from the right to the left hand side of the stage. Now before we do animate these, once again we have to convert them to a symbol, but in this case we'll call it a graphic symbol and cityscape, because before we add a simple motion tween it must be a symbol. So we could convert it to a symbol. We'll head over to our timeline and we'll right click and create motion tween. So it's dedicated 24 frames in this case, and we'll scrub right to the 24th frame. So it's got that particular frame selected, and I'll just move the cityscape to the right to the left. Now if we would like, we can scrub across our timeline. You can see it's animating from left to right. Now it doesn't look quite convincing, and we want it to sort of wrap around the ground or that curve. And so we can get to certain points in our timeline, say in the middle, and we can move our cursor over the motion path and just bend that nicer. And that way it sort of curves around that oval shape. Furthermore, we can head over to this side, over into keyframe 1. We can go to our free transform tool, select it and rotate it. So we'll just push it, rotate it around and push it down a little bit. And we'll just scrub across to our 24th frame and just do the same but on the opposite end. And Flash should fill in the gaps, and that's looking a little bit nicer. If we want, we can select between the two keyframes and select F5, and that adds more keyframes, and therefore it's just will be a little bit more smoother and slower. So if we hit enter and preview it, that's looking pretty good. And if we head over back to our scene that should update now. Even though there's only one keyframe dedicated towards this city, it will still animate because it's a movie clip, and it's basically an animation inside itself. So if we hit Control Enter, the movie clip is animating within the one keyframe from the right to the left hand side. And just to make it look a little bit more convincing, with movie clips we can add filters. So if we select it, head over to our properties palette and just move down to the filters, we can add new layer, we can add a blur effect, and you can tweak some of these little features here, so to increase or decrease the blur and quality. So that looks a little bit better. And now just to finish it off, we can start a brand new layer and just double click that, and we'll call it sky, and we can lock everything else away. Grab this rectangle tool and just select the gradient effect, and we'll just draw a big square behind everything. And once again, if we like, we can tweak that gradient effect with the gradient transform tool. So if we select that, we can make some slight changes. I'm pretty happy with that in general. So if I select off that, and if I hit Control Enter, it's basically how to create a animated background for our walk cycle. So I hope that helps. Cheers.